My name is Lena, and I'm 34 years old. If you had asked me a year ago what my biggest dream was, I would have said, to get engaged to the love of my life and finally feel seen. For most people, an engagement is a joyful milestone, filled with laughter, love, and hope for the future. For me, it was the moment I chose to reclaim my voice after a lifetime of being silenced. I live in a city called Rosefield, a quiet yet charming place nestled just outside a major metropolitan area. It's where I've built a peaceful life away from the emotional chaos I grew up in. I've been with Lucas, my boyfriend of 6 years, and not once in all those years did I doubt that he was the one. He's steady, supportive, funny, and kind in all the ways that matter. When he proposed, I felt a mixture of joy and disbelief. Someone actually chose me, not my younger sister Jenna. See, in my family, I was never the favorite. That title belonged to Jenna from the day she was born. She's 5 years younger than me, and for as long as I can remember, our parents, especially my mother, Linda, have treated her like royalty. My father, Mark, was always just a quiet shadow in the background, never standing up for me or questioning my mother's blatant favoritism. Growing up, I used to wonder what I did wrong. On my 21st birthday, my parents forgot to even wish me until my grandma called to remind them. They rushed to the store, grabbed a cake that was half frozen, and handed me a $15 gift card like it was some heartfelt gesture. Just a few months earlier, they had thrown a 6-day celebration for Jenna's 18th birthday, complete with catering, a DJ, a professional photographer, and personalized decor. I pretended it didn't hurt. I got good at pretending. So when Lucas and I started planning our engagement party, I told myself this time would be different. We were doing this for us. We spent months picking the perfect venue, choosing elegant colors, finalizing the guest list, and carefully organizing every detail so it would feel just right. I was finally going to have a moment that was about me, not Jenna, not anyone else. Just me and the person I loved. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to feel excited, to feel like I mattered. And just 5 weeks before the big day, everything started to unravel. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I had just finished reviewing the seating chart for the party and was about to call the florist when my phone rang. I smiled when I saw the caller ID. It was my mom. A part of me, the part that still longed for her approval, thought maybe she was finally calling to say she was proud of me. Maybe she wanted to talk about her outfit or offer to help with the arrangements. I picked up, hopeful. "Hi, Mom." Her voice was sharp and cold. "Lena, cancel the engagement party." I blinked. For a second, I thought I'd misheard her.
What?
"You heard me," she said firmly. "Cancel it. We're throwing a party for Jenna instead." My stomach sank. "What are you talking about? Jenna just got a major promotion. We're celebrating it on the same day as your engagement party. Everyone will be coming to her event." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My mind struggled to catch up. "Mom, I've been planning this for months. Invitations have gone out, the venue is booked, the food." "You're being selfish," she cut in. "This is a big moment for your sister. It's a career milestone. It means something. And my engagement doesn't?" I said, my voice rising despite myself. "This is a once-in-a-lifetime moment for me." She sighed, like I was exhausting her. "It's just a party, Lena. You can move it. Reschedule. No one will mind." "No," I said, trying to stay calm. "I'm not canceling it. Not for anyone. Especially not for Jenna's promotion." There was a long silence, then her voice dropped into something colder. "You always make things difficult." And with that, she hung up. I stared at my phone in disbelief. I sat there, frozen, while the words replayed in my head. "Cancel the engagement party. We're throwing a party for Jenna instead." I wanted to cry, but I didn't. Instead, I felt something else, fury. This wasn't just about a party. This was about everything. Every time I had come second. Every time Jenna had been treated like a princess, and I was the leftover. When Lucas got home that evening, he found me sitting on the couch, still holding my phone like it might ring again. "Lena? What's going on?" I told him everything. Every word. He listened, jaw clenched, his eyes darkening with anger. She actually said that to you? He asked. I nodded, my voice tight. She wants me to give up my engagement party so they can celebrate Jenna's promotion. That's insane. I know. He sat beside me, wrapped his arm around my shoulders. We're not canceling anything. We've worked too hard for this. I leaned into him. I just wanted this one thing to be about me. He kissed my forehead. It is about you.
And me.
And our future. Not them. And for the first time that day, I let myself exhale. The next morning, I woke up determined to shift my focus back to the party. Lucas, and I still had a lot to finalize: floral arrangements, music playlist, catering confirmations. I had spent years being pushed to the background. I wasn't going to let this moment slip through my fingers just because my mother refused to see my worth. As I sipped my coffee and opened my laptop, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my cousin Lily. Lily, hey Lena, is everything okay with you and Lucas? I heard you guys broke up. I stared at the message, confused. Broke up?
What was she talking about?
Me. What?
No.
Who told you that? She replied almost instantly. Lily. Aunt Linda. She told Aunt Barbara that you and Lucas had a huge fight and called off the engagement. She said the party's canceled. I nearly dropped my phone. Panic rose in my chest as I called Lily immediately. What's going on? I asked as soon as she picked up. I don't know what to believe, Lena, she said. Aunt Barbara told me that your mom called her last night. She said the party was off and everyone should go to Jenna's celebration instead. My pulse thundered in my ears. I felt like I was standing in quicksand. Lily, none of that is true. Lucas and I are fine. The engagement party is still happening. My mom told me to cancel it for Jenna's promotion, but I said no. So now she's lying to everyone. Oh my God, Lena.
I'm so sorry.
I had no idea. It's okay, I said, swallowing the lump in my throat. But I need your help. Can you let people know the truth? The party is still on. Of course, she said without hesitation. I'll start calling and texting people right now. I spent the next few hours doing the same. Message after message. Call after call. Each one more exhausting than the last. I explained to every guest on our list that the engagement was not canceled. That Lucas and I were fine. That my mother had fabricated the entire story to sabotage the event. Some were surprised. Others were sympathetic. A few had already RSVP'd to Jenna's event, assuming mine was no longer happening. I didn't have the energy to convince them otherwise. All I could do was tell the truth. By the time Lucas got home that evening, my voice was hoarse and my fingers ached from typing. He sat beside me, reading my face. What happened? I told him everything. The lies. The calls. The texts. That's it, he said, his voice firm. We're done with them, Lena. Your mom, your dad, Jenna, all of them. I nodded slowly. I know you're right, but it still hurts. Lucas took my hand in his. You've done nothing wrong. You're allowed to celebrate your happiness. If they can't be part of that, then they don't deserve a seat at the table. I looked into his eyes and saw only love, only loyalty. That night, we posted a public message on social media to all our friends and family, clarifying the confusion. I wrote, to everyone who received mixed information, our engagement party is still happening as planned. Lucas and I are very much together and excited to celebrate with those who truly support us. We look forward to seeing you there.
It was direct.
Polite. But it carried a quiet strength I hadn't known I possessed until now. As I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, I felt tired. Not just physically, but emotionally. My own mother had tried to ruin my engagement. And yet, I wasn't going to let her succeed. Not this time. The next day, I decided to visit my Aunt Barbara in person. I couldn't ignore the sinking feeling in my chest that told me more lies had been spread, and I needed to face them. Aunt Barbara had always been warm to me growing up, and I truly believed she'd want to hear my side of the story. I also wanted to make sure she and her daughter, my cousin Maya, knew that the engagement party was still happening. As I approached the front porch of their home, I could already hear voices from the living room window. I paused just before knocking. I can't believe Lena, would do something like this, Aunt Barbara was saying. Her voice sounded disappointed. Canceling her own engagement party just to spite Jenna? It's childish. My stomach twisted. Right? Maya chimed in. Jenna works so hard. She deserved her promotion. It's not her fault Lena's always bitter about being in the background. I froze.
So this was what they thought of me.
Before I could second-guess myself, I stepped inside and cleared my throat. They both turned, startled. Is that really what you think of me? I asked, keeping my voice steady, even though my heart was pounding. Aunt Barbara quickly stood up, her expression shifting to discomfort. Lena, sweetie, we didn't hear you come in. Obviously, I replied coolly. I came to personally invite you to my engagement party, but it sounds like you've already made up your mind about me. Maya at least had the decency to look embarrassed. We didn't mean it like that. Save it, I said, my tone sharp but calm. Tell me exactly what my mother told you. For the next hour, I listened as they laid out the twisted story Linda had spun. According to her, I had flown into a jealous rage when I heard about Jenna's promotion. I'd allegedly demanded that the celebration be canceled, and when Jenna refused, I supposedly canceled my engagement out of spite, saying I'd rather stay single than share my spotlight. It was a cruel and calculated lie, crafted perfectly to make me look ungrateful, dramatic, and selfish. None of that is true, I said, my voice trembling now, not from fear, but from years of pent-up emotion. She called me and demanded I cancel my party. When I said no, she made up this story and spread it to everyone. Barbara and Maya exchanged guilty glances. For the first time, they looked like they truly believed me. I'm sorry, Lena, Aunt Barbara said sincerely. We should have come to you first. We shouldn't have assumed. I nodded, swallowing hard. I've spent my entire life trying to be enough for that woman, and all she's ever done is push me aside. I'm done letting her rewrite my story. There was a long pause. Please, I said softly, help me undo this. I just want to celebrate something that matters to me. For once. We will, Maya said. We'll make some calls. As I walked out of the house, the air felt a little lighter. Not because everything was suddenly okay, but because for the first time, I wasn't afraid to tell the truth, even when it hurt. Still, deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Linda wasn't done. And something told me she'd show up at the party. The night of our engagement party arrived faster than I expected. Lucas and I had worked so hard to repair the damage my mother had caused, and now, as the lights sparkled above the garden venue and soft music drifted through the air, I allowed myself to smile. For once, I felt like the center of something beautiful. The guests who truly cared about us were there. Cousins, friends, Lucas's family, a few of my aunts and uncles who saw through the drama. Even Aunt Barbara and Maya showed up, offering me a warm hug and a simple, "We're so glad we came." Everything looked magical. The white tent glowed from within, the string lights shimmered like stars, and the air was filled with soft laughter and clinking glasses. The band played our favorite jazz standards, and Lucas held my hand tighter every time someone offered congratulations. For a brief moment, I believed I had finally escaped the shadows of my past. And then I saw them. Standing at the edge of the crowd, arms crossed and expressions cold, were my parents, Linda and Mark. I hadn't invited them. I hadn't even told them the final time and location. But there they were, storm clouds in the middle of a perfect sky. Lucas stepped forward, protective. "Do you want me to ask them to leave?" I shook my head. "Let's see what they do." Linda didn't wait long. She marched toward me, her heels echoing sharply across the patio. The music faltered slightly as people turned to watch. "You really went through with this?" she snapped, loud enough for half the room to hear. I looked her straight in the eyes.
Yes.
I did. "I told you to cancel this party," she screamed. "But no, you just had to make a scene. You humiliated your sister. You embarrassed this family." "Linda, that's enough," Lucas said, stepping in between us. "No," she shouted, pushing past him. "I'm her mother, and she refuses to listen." Guests gasped. People started whispering. I tried to keep calm, but my voice was shaking. "This is my engagement, Mom.
Mine.
Not Jenna's. Not yours." "I should have known you'd ruin everything," she shouted. And then she did it. In one sudden motion, Linda lunged toward the small platform where speeches had been made earlier and grabbed the microphone stand, a heavy, black, metal frame. "Mom, don't," I said, taking a step back. But it was too late. In a blinding moment of rage, she swung the mic stand hard across my shoulder and the side of my head. The metal cracked against my skull with a sickening thud. The crowd screamed. My knees buckled, and I collapsed to the ground. Everything blurred. I heard someone yell, "Call 911," and then Lucas shouting my name. Blood ran down the side of my face as I tried to lift my head. My vision swam with light and shadows. I could hear Lily's voice trembling on the phone with emergency services, her words quick and panicked. Within minutes, flashing red and blue lights lit up the venue. The police arrived with paramedics right behind them. Guests moved aside as officers ran in, separating Linda from the chaos. Lucas was kneeling beside me, holding a cloth to my wound, his face pale with fear. "She hit her with a mic stand," someone told the police. "On the head." Unprovoked. The officer didn't wait. Linda was handcuffed on the spot, her mouth still running, her voice now frantic. "I didn't mean. She provoked me. This is all a misunderstanding." But no one believed her. I was lifted onto a stretcher, my body aching and my heart hollow. As they wheeled me toward the ambulance, I caught one last glimpse of my mother, sitting in the back of a police car, her face twisted in rage and disbelief. And as the ambulance doors closed, I felt something strange. Relief. For the first time in my life, someone had held her accountable. The ride to the hospital was a blur. The lights above me in the ambulance were too bright, the siren too loud. But the pain in my shoulder and the pounding at the side of my head kept me anchored in the moment. I remember Lucas holding my hand, his thumb gently brushing over mine as he tried to reassure me through tear-filled eyes. At the emergency room, the medical team worked quickly. A scan confirmed a minor concussion, a bruised collarbone, and a deep gash just above my right ear that needed 6 stitches. My shoulder had swelling that would take weeks to heal. The physical pain was sharp, but not as sharp as the emotional wound left behind. Lucas never left my side. Over the next few days, I remained under observation. I replayed the scene at the engagement party in my mind over and over again. My mother's scream, the shock in the guests' eyes, the cold metal slamming into my head. It wasn't just an outburst. It was an attack, plain and simple. I had spent my entire life swallowing my mother's emotional abuse. But now, she had crossed a line no one could ignore. On the 4th morning, I sat upright in my hospital bed and looked at Lucas. "I want to press charges." He nodded immediately. "You don't have to do this alone. I'll be with you every step of the way." With his help and the support of Lily, who had witnessed everything, I contacted a lawyer and filed a formal complaint with the local police department. My mother was already in custody for felony assault with a weapon, but I wanted to ensure she faced legal consequences that matched the trauma she caused. The case moved quickly, partially because the attack had happened in front of nearly 50 witnesses, many of whom were willing to testify. Surveillance footage from the venue clearly showed the assault, from the moment Linda grabbed the microphone stand to the moment I hit the ground. My lawyer, a sharp and empathetic woman named Rachel Sanders, walked me through the entire process. "You don't have to feel guilty for seeking justice," she told me. "What she did was criminal, and the law is on your side." In court, I sat in the witness box, staring directly at the woman who gave birth to me. She wouldn't meet my eyes. I told the truth, not just about the attack, but about the years of neglect, the favoritism, the manipulation, and the emotional damage I had endured. I spoke clearly, my voice steady despite the pain. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just let the truth stand on its own. When it was over, the judge ruled swiftly. Linda was found guilty of aggravated assault and sentenced to 18 months in state prison, followed by mandatory anger management therapy and a restraining order preventing her from contacting me for 5 years. I felt a wave of emotions, relief, sadness, even grief, but most of all, I felt strong. I had stood up to the person who had hurt me the most. I had finally broken the cycle. After the trial, something shifted inside me. For the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of disappointing anyone. I didn't have to tiptoe around feelings or make myself smaller so others could shine. I had stood up, told my truth, and watched justice take its course. But healing wasn't instant. I spent a few weeks recovering physically at home with Lucas, who took care of everything: meals, medicine, even gentle shoulder massages to ease the pain. His presence was calm and reassuring, a reminder that I was safe, that I was loved. Despite everything, there were quiet moments when the grief crept in. Grief not for what happened, but for what I had always wanted and never received: a mother's unconditional love. But slowly, I stopped waiting for apologies that would never come. I stopped trying to fit into a family that never saw me. Instead, I focused on what I could control: my future. I started seeing a therapist, someone who helped me work through the years of emotional neglect and taught me how to set boundaries that honored my well-being. For the first time, I didn't feel broken, I felt free. Lucas's family became my second home. His mother would call just to check on me. His sister dropped by with soup and silly gossip. They never treated me like I was damaged. They just made space for me, without conditions. It was a kind of love I had never known before. I also began volunteering at a local women's support center, offering time to those recovering from domestic or emotional abuse. Sharing my story didn't just help others, it helped me. It reminded me of how far I had come. Lucas and I still had a wedding to plan. And this time, I wasn't doing it to prove anything to anyone. I wasn't seeking approval, attention, or praise. I was creating a day that would celebrate love, truth, and the strength it takes to rise after being torn down. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Lucas reached over and gently squeezed my hand. "I'm proud of you," he said. "You didn't just survive. You rebuilt." I smiled. I'm not done rebuilding yet. The weeks passed quickly, and before I knew it, we were just days away from our wedding. It wasn't going to be a grand production. That dream had changed. Now I wanted something real,
Intimate.
authentic. We chose a small vineyard just outside Rosefield, surrounded by rolling hills and golden light. It felt like the kind of place where healing could bloom. Our guest list was carefully chosen, people who had stood by us, who had shown love without conditions. And this time, there were no second thoughts about who should be there. I never sent invitations to Linda, Mark, or Jenna. I had no desire to reopen wounds just to appear polite. My peace was worth more than their presence. The morning of the wedding, I stood in front of a mirror in a simple white dress, soft curls framing my face, a quiet calm settling in my chest. My reflection looked back at me, strong, serene, no longer someone seeking permission to be happy. As I stepped out onto the vineyard path, the sun cast a warm glow across the guests. I saw Lily wiping away a tear, Aunt Barbara and Maya clapping with wide smiles, and Lucas standing at the altar, eyes locked onto mine like I was the only person on earth. We said our vows under a wooden arch draped with soft ivy and white roses. Lucas's voice didn't shake when he promised to stand beside me in all things. And when I spoke, I didn't just speak to him. I spoke to the version of myself who had once felt invisible. With you, I found what love is supposed to feel like: safe, honest, and strong. I promise to never shrink myself again. And I promise to build a life with you that's rooted in truth. When the ceremony ended and Lucas kissed me, I didn't just feel married. I felt free. At the reception, there was laughter, dancing, and more joy than I could have imagined. Grandma, now living in a care home but still sharp as ever, had recorded a surprise video message for us. "Lena, you've always had strength in you. I'm proud of you for finally using it." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. As Lucas and I shared our first dance under the twinkling lights, I rested my head on his chest and whispered, "We made it." He kissed the top of my head. Yes, we did. This wasn't just the end of a long road. It was the beginning of my own story, one I was finally writing for myself. A story no one else would control. A story filled with love, peace, and the kind of strength that only comes from walking through fire and choosing to keep going anyway. A week after the wedding, I found myself sitting alone in our sunlit kitchen, pen in hand, staring at a blank page. There were no guests, no noise, just the quiet hum of a new chapter beginning. I started writing without thinking. Dear Mom, I don't know if you'll ever read this. Maybe I'll never send it. But there are things I need to say, not for you, but for me. I wrote about the years of silence, the moments she had looked through me like I didn't exist. I wrote about the birthday she forgot, and how I smiled through it anyway. About the time she told me to cancel the most important celebration of my life, just to uplift someone else's moment. You taught me a lot, Mom. Not by love, but by absence. Not through support, but through the lack of it. And strangely, I'm stronger for it. I didn't write to forgive. I wrote to let go. By the time I finished, my hand ached, but my heart felt lighter. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. Not to be mailed, but to be released. Because the truth is, I didn't need her apology to move on. I had already set myself free. Thank you for watching Lena's powerful story of strength, betrayal, and self-discovery. If this story moved you or reminded you that no one has the right to dim your light, please give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment to share your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe for more true-life inspired stories like this one. Your support means the world to us and helps bring more voices like Lena's to life. Until next time, stay strong, stay kind, and always choose your worth.